Good morning, Internet. As you can see, winter has set in my mountain hideout. Today is Thursday, the 7th of December, and I'm going to read to you a reply to an angry accusation coming from a friend of mine in Israel. I have friends there, and the extent to which people believe the media and believe what their government is telling them about the present crisis and everything else connected to Palestinians is truly frightening, and I want to publish my reply to this friend to show people what this is doing to the Jewish community worldwide. So here goes. Dear Chris, I received your letter and I hear you. It pains me to hear you are so angry, frustrated, pained. It's not easy to stand in the middle of a shitstorm like the one going on in Israel, seeing your friends and family being hurt, experiencing total powerlessness, and you are right. I don't live there. I don't have to put up with that stuff every day. Your letter deserves a reply, so here it is. There are a lot of people in Israel who I love and call my friend, despite the very difficult time I had when I actually lived there. I can honestly say I encountered both the best of humanity there and sometimes some of the worst. And I concluded that given the circumstances, the worst was going to get the upper hand, and so, because I had the possibility, I left. And since that time, I have continually warned my friends and family that the direction chosen by the political elites that rule Israel for their own profit, combined with religious fanaticism and the violence of the settlers, would inevitably draw the country into a deeper humanitarian crisis. And that's what's happened. So, the attacks of the 7th of October by Hamas did not come as much of a surprise to me, although their success and alleged brutality did. But then again, you can't keep on inflicting violence of the kind that Israel has inflicted on Palestinians for over 75 years without expecting retaliation. Several generations have grown up under the worst of all conditions, and those conditions have become steadily worse in the last couple of years, mirroring the increasingly right-wing attitudes of Israeli politics. Eventually, this decline even went too far for Israeli citizens, and they have been protesting in the streets. However, the massive protests against Netanyahu's judicial reforms are really about democracy for Jews. There's still no widespread acknowledgement of the fact that the occupation is completely destroying Israel and destroying the hopes of millions of peoples for many years to come. The fate of Palestinians and that of Israeli Jews is now inextricably entwined. You accuse me of supporting Hamas, as if it means I support whatever horrific things they got up to on the 7th of October 2023 or before. That is a simplification, though. It would be like me accusing you, an Israeli, of supporting Netanyahu or the crimes of the IDF, which are committed in the name of security, your security, without acknowledging that you are against this violence and have been out protesting against the judicial reforms. I support the Palestinian cause, which is legitimate and just cause on principle. I consider this support fundamental to ending the occupation and to ending these increasingly destructive cycles of violence. So, in our exchanges, I don't really see any real point where you and I disagree, except the following. As far as I can see from where I am, the Israeli government and media are deeply complicit in shaping public awareness and the sentiments about the occupation, and have developed a sophisticated and extensive network to coordinate and shape every event in ways that benefit the right-wing government agenda. There are so many examples of this that it becomes tedious to list them. I'm sure you can find these instances even in the Israeli media, insofar as any criticism is possible at all. One instance that I can think of is the widely publicized claim that 40 babies had been beheaded at a kibbutz. It was bullshit, but in this day and age where people are so focused on their own feelings, who gives a fuck about the truth anymore, especially if that truth is inconvenient to us? And so we come to your claim that Israeli women were raped by Hamas. Now, rape is a serious crime in peacetime, and in wartime it is a war crime, and it's not to be taken lightly. I have not actually heard any witness testimony about this. As with other accusations, all we have to go with is hearsay. But of course it would be a terrible crime, and there's no way I could condone that. So why are you accusing me of doing so? I question the veracity of the allegations that I have heard, because I have ample evidence of the Israeli government and media machine lying about everything else. The equation is quite simple. Who benefits from such stories? Despite this, I cannot either deny or confirm such claims, but you should know that I would never condone such crimes. You sent me a video of your friend Naama Levi being dragged out of a jeep by Hamas. It looks horrific. Her pants are dirty and it looks like she has been bleeding. It's not proof of rape. And of course, until she is released, we will not know the truth. But I agree with you, it's horrific. But you cannot force me to accept that it is rape merely on the basis of these images alone. And this is where you and I seem to have a much more fundamental disagreement. Your beliefs and assumptions about Hamas and Palestinians are inevitably shaped by where you live, whom you identify as Israeli, Jewish, a woman, and the media that you consume and the messages you and everyone around you are sharing and bombarding each other with 24 hours a day, every day, for years and years. You have been told over and over that Palestinians are criminals and animals, women haters, atavistic religious extremists, terrorists, anti-Semites who want to destroy the state of Israel and throw you all back in the sea, etc., etc. And you have been told over and over again about the Holocaust, about how the world hates Jews, about how we are the chosen people, about how beautiful and free and democratic we are, about how diverse we are, about our heroism in the Warsaw Ghetto and the Six-Day War, how we came to an empty land and made it bloom. You have lived a life of luxury, a privileged life, even if you are not from a wealthy family. You could travel wherever you liked, go wherever you liked in your country, surrounded by the best schools and universities, clever, kind, beautiful, artistic, Jewish people, so different from the lives of Palestinians. And you and your beautiful friends went to a love and peace concert right outside the Gaza ghetto while it was being bombed, to show how much you are for love and peace. Why don't Palestinians have such festivals? Where's their Gandhi, their Mandela, their Yehudi Menuhin, their Einstein? What do you really know about Palestinians, Christina? Even when I lived in Israel in 1993, contact with Palestinians was minimal. It took considerable courage to meet them eye to eye, let alone to travel in the West Bank or Gaza. And Palestinians, if you meet them, do not speak their mind to Jews under normal circumstances. We are two peoples entirely estranged from each other, like the members of a family who have stopped speaking to each other for years. Why? Distrust. Where does this distrust come from? It comes from the denial of the Nakba and all the horrors that accompanied it, including rape. Yes, those beautiful, heroic Jewish young men who all studied Torah, they raped, and there is evidence of this. This situation is so deeply embedded in Israeli society that it has become buried like some skeleton in a closet, surrounded by unconscious guilt that prevents us from talking about it, even amongst ourselves. Israeli Jewish historians who attempt to research and discuss this subject are literally removed from academia and forced to flee abroad in fear of their life. But in the years since historians finally started to examine the contents of this black hole in public awareness, most of the big heroes of Israeli statehood have been exposed as profoundly unethical people who did terrible things and who lied to the Israeli public about them. People who commit the worst possible crimes in full awareness of what they were doing, and then covered up these crimes in the hope they would be forgotten. Well, guess who did not forget them? Palestinians. So, and of course, how could they have forgotten them? Because those crimes continue to be committed and denied. So, I return to the accusation that I somehow support Hamas raping women. Are you aware who actually first publicly condoned the use of rape in this conflict? Publicly, in full view of the media. It was not Hamas. Go and look on the internet if you want to see some fun facts. And I draw your attention to the rape of a British tourist in Cyprus a couple of years ago, and how swiftly the Israeli embassy descended on the country, sending someone to hush up the case and shepherd the young men back to Israel. And how these young men were then greeted as national heroes when they returned to Israel. All in full public view. So much for your fantasy about Israel being a diverse and egalitarian society. All of this is to say, no, I absolutely cannot confirm or deny accusations of rape by Hamas. But I can absolutely confirm, A, that Israeli troops raped Palestinians during the War of Independence, and B, that an Israeli rabbi for the IDF openly advocated raping Palestinian women. And as far as I remember, a member of the Knesset has done this as well. And, you know, there's probably more. Do I need to draw conclusions for you, or can you draw them yourself? Israel is a country that has such a profoundly guilty conscience about what it does that it has no choice but to continually project its worst fears on its enemies. This is basic Freud. And the worst thing is that while they use every possibility to do so, it is becoming increasingly impossible to establish what is going on. And so people like you and me, Christina, are fighting over these details as if establishing the truth about them either way would somehow help us to end these cycles of violence. And I tell you, it won't. The violence will only end when people return to universal humanitarian principles and overthrow a government that is hell-bent on destroying human rights, not only for Palestinians, mind you, but also for Israeli critics, dissenters, seekers of truth and justice, people who want to make peace, people who refuse to fight, who don't want to live by the sword, and who don't have the possibility to cast the whole world, who don't want the possibility to cast the whole world into an apocalyptic nuclear war, just to maintain a fantasy of a racially pure Jewish state. So what is this accusation of me condoning Hamas use of rape really about? Well, you obviously can't accuse me of anti-Semitism because I'm Jewish, but this has not stopped others from calling me a self-hating Jew. Luckily, you see how ridiculous that is. But claiming I condone rape is almost, or perhaps even more damaging, since I'm a man. If I deny, well, it's because I'm a man. Or an anti-Semite. Which one? But you will not find on any of my social media posts any such nonsense. I do not condone rape by anyone. In the meantime, your incensed attack on me demonstrates how deeply divisive this conflict has become. Over the years, I'm losing more and more Israeli and Jewish friends as a consequence. It kind of acts as a mirror of what is happening to the nation as a whole, as its bullshit stories about how it is a victim of Arab anti-Semitism wear increasingly thin. There's a whole world outside of Israel, but this fact seems lost on most Israelis who seem to believe that this situation can and will continue indefinitely and always in their favor. I guess the 7th of October must have been a shock to all of you. It's a reminder that what goes around comes around. It's a lesson we all need to learn. Either we end these cycles of violence or we succumb to them. And so I stand on my principles rather than on a few flimsy, easily manipulated, sentimental claims. Sorry to say it, Christina, I love you. I really do. I love you much. But in the end, it's not so much that my love for Hamas caused these horrible attacks, but that the whole society you live in is living a terrible lie. And may I remind you, you and many like you can leave any time you want. Nobody in Gaza can leave. Aho.